Your podcast name is your first impression. It's what makes someone decide that it's a show they want to spend time listening to, or if it's one they'll just pass on. So what's the right podcast name? Let's talk about it. I'm Angel Marie from Convertkit, a creator marketing platform that exists to help you earn a living online. Let's get started. Your podcast name should reflect the ideal listener, the value your listeners get, and the perspective they'll hear. Now, choosing the perfect podcast name is so important because creating that podcast is a lot like starting a business. You need to have an idea of what you'll sell, and in the case of podcasts specifically, what your listeners can expect from tuning in. Even if your podcast is a random talk with your best friend, your audience needs an idea of what they can expect. And if they don't know what your podcast is about, it'll be harder to convince them to tune in. Now, the good news is that your podcast name is closer than you think. Giving your podcast the perfect name really comes down to 3 simple actions: understanding who your podcast is for and why it exists, choosing the perfect podcast name format, and picking your favorite, or just asking your audience which one they like best. Let's dive deeper into the formulas that we created to help you choose the perfect podcast name. These formulas that you see here are flexible and are really all up to your creativity behind them. So try to create 2 or 3 names per formula based on your topic, ideal listener, the benefit to the listener, and cadence. Now, once you've jotted down those creative names, you can go through your list and pick your favorite one. Let's go ahead and walk through a couple of these in depth, starting with the formula we titled The Benefit to the Listener. With this formula, your podcast name will reflect what your listener will get from listening. Now, in these examples, you can see how each podcast title attracts an audience interested in a specific topic, like finances, making their first $1 million, things like that. This is a great formula to use for creators who give specific value in their episodes. Take Alyssa Dullen, for example. In Convertkit's very own deliverability defined podcast, Alyssa stated that the reason why they chose this formula for their name was because they dive into complex, technical concepts with the goal of helping their listeners take action. Let's take a look at another formula in this image we shared here, the play on words. By using play on words, you can really come up with a creative name that makes people curious to see what you're talking about. Now, this formula relies heavily on one of 2 things: your audience already knowing what to expect from your content, and creating enough intrigue that somebody who isn't familiar with you is curious enough to listen. This formula is perfect for creators who already have an audience to promote their podcast to. But you can also use this formula if you create an intriguing enough name that makes people scrolling through past podcast shows look twice. Here's an example by Sarah Cohen with her podcast. Now, Sarah had mentioned that she wanted her audience to learn about personal growth using examples from her very own life. So she decided to take a creative spin and use the play on words approach that we just talked about. There are so many formulas you can choose from to decide on your very own podcast name. And if you're looking for additional help, examples, and inspiration, head to our blog article on the same topic in the description down below. All right, so we talked about picking a podcast name, and although that's really important, your podcast also needs to deliver compelling content over time. Now, luckily, Convertkit makes it easy to launch your podcast, turn listeners into email subscribers, and grow your business online. Let's walk through what it looks like to create a landing page on Convertkit to grow your podcast audience and overall listeners. The first step in creating your landing page on Convertkit is to head to the Grow tab at the top. Click Landing Pages and Forms, and you'll notice that it takes you to all the landing pages and forms you might have created in the past. But to create a new one, you'll just head to Create New in the far right. From here, you have 2 options. You can create a form, or you can create a landing page. Now, both are great for collecting email addresses, But in today's demo, let's create that landing page so that you have more room to add content and copy to it. From here, you'll be able to choose your landing page template. But first, let's go ahead and click the podcast category so that it populates with the best landing page designs specifically built for creators promoting a podcast. And then from here, just choose the template you like best. Next up is my personal favorite part, which is to customize your landing page. So let's go ahead and name this landing page so that it's easy to find in our account. And then we can give it a strong headline. We can go ahead and drop a subtitle in there that provides additional information, a high quality image that you can upload from your computer, from Unsplash, or even pulling some photos over from Instagram, which is such a great option to have here. And then you can customize that call to action, depending on what your landing page messaging is. Now, something I always love to point out is that you can utilize the convenient content block that appears in the form of a plus button in certain areas on the landing page editor. Now, this content block will allow you to add more creative components to your landing page, like adding links to where your podcast episodes live, or icons, buttons, and so much more. So definitely use this to your advantage. All right, so let's say you're done designing your landing page. You'll want to then customize what's called the incentive email. The incentive email is the automated confirmation email that your subscribers will automatically receive when they opt in. And most of the time, that confirmation email houses some sort of freebie that's being promised to new subscribers if they sign up. Just like our example here. We're offering a daily morning checklist alongside promoting our podcast on this landing page, right? So to reflect that messaging in your incentive email and give new subscribers that checklist freebie automatically, just head to Settings, Incentive, upload your freebie or paste the URL link to it right here, and then head to where you can edit the incentive email content by clicking here. You can customize this email too by adding a personalized subject line, email body content where you thank your new listeners, and even editing the button that subscribers will click on in order to get the freebie you attached to this email previously. All right, so the final step to get this landing page and incentive up and running is to save these incentive email changes, then head up here to save again so that you don't lose any of the work you did on your landing page design, click publish, and then go ahead and copy that landing page link to share. You can link this landing page in your podcast show notes, on social media, or anywhere else so you can turn your podcast listeners into true fans by getting them on your email list. It's as simple as that, my friends, and you can literally get started for free by heading to the link in the description down below. And remember, you don't need to choose a podcast name overnight. You don't even need to create a podcast landing page overnight. Brainstorm a few names based on the formulas that we talked about earlier, and go ahead and play around with creating a landing page in Convertkit until you find both a name and a landing page that you like best. You got this. Thanks for watching, and keep creating.